Hello and welcome. Let's do a little introduction. Yep. So, in this video, we're going to be walking through a case study on how we can actually use shadow work as business owners, right, as entrepreneurs. Now, who am I, right? Why should you even listen to me? So, I lost my first business at 19 years old due to unconscious patterns, due to literally self-sabotage. What that did is it led me to find some amazing mentors. I ended up living with a Buddhist nun, learning shadow work, learning all these deep Buddhist meditation to affirm, and also living with a hypnotherapist and learning the Western style, so Western and Eastern coming together. And now I work with other business owners, other entrepreneurs who want their internal to match the external that's already doing really, really well. And we're also going to speak about really practical next steps, like how you can actually use this in your life. So let's find where I put this. So here we go. So this is a couple of clients that I picked out that I think really represent the work we're going to be speaking about, why shadow work is important, why it actually matters, right? And what we've got here is what we call the shadow tree. So this is how we're generating, right? How is our internal map, our unconscious map, generating the symptoms that we don't want, right? So we've got two symptoms here. The first one was confusion. So the first one was internal pressure. The second one was confusion. Okay. Now, if you're some kind of business owner, entrepreneur, you probably experience this all the time, especially internal pressure. This one is so common, but confusion too, right? Where it's really, really annoying, right? But internal pressure getting in your way, just making you feel constricted, trapped all day. And what I found is it often constricts the creativity and it often makes it harder to actually break through the the barriers you have in your mind, right? To break through to the next stage and the next version of yourself and your business. And so this one was a little bit more specific. So we got into the internal pressure and we got into the trigger. Okay. So I'm just going to use blue here. So trigger is here. And for him it was about public events speaking. And he'd already done hundreds and hundreds of Zoom meetings with hundreds of people. But when it came to public events, it felt very different. It created a lot of internal pressure. So even though the Zoom didn't create internal pressure, this did, right? And so this trigger created this symptom. But why? Why did the public event speaking from Zoom, so speaking outside of Zoom, create internal pressure? This is where we get to the internal process or the unconscious map. And this is the interesting part because when we're here, it doesn't matter. Like it's if you're trying to heal here and putting it in red, does not matter. Does not matter. Screw it. No one cares. Right? If you're healing at this level, you're not healing. You're just faffing about, really. It's an English phrase. It just means like messing around. It's a waste of your time. Right? Because you can process the internal pressure, but it just comes back because the map, the internal process is generating this internal pressure, right? It doesn't matter how much you heal this, it just doesn't matter because the map, this thing, is the same, right? And so for this person, we got to the kind of edges of the map. I don't want to disappoint them, okay? We explore a little bit more. It's my job to keep them happy, huh? If I don't keep them happy, they will leave, right? So now we're getting to the core parts of the map, right here, core, okay? We saw the edges, and we can see how it generates it. If, I don't keep them happy, they'll leave, then it's definitely my job to keep them happy. I definitely don't want to disappoint them. But it's all coming from this, right? If I don't keep them happy, they will leave. And so next, this is where we get to when was the internal map actually created? And we have this idea of conscious conceptualization, which I just refer to as CC because I don't want to write conscious conceptualization down again and again. And so this person, they had an experience with their mum leaving. And they internalized it as my fault. And that they need to keep people, right? It's their job, it's their responsibility to keep people happy. So we can see how this, right, this, the event, the objective event, then generated a subjective interpretation, but that's my fault, which generated a unconscious map that is now generating these current problems. We're making a real mess here, aren't we? So you can see objective event, mum left. Okay. Does that mean anything about me? No. We can see that as adults, right? If for whatever reason, doesn't mean my mum's bad. It's not ideal, but it doesn't, we don't even need to judge her or anything in the situation. But just someone left and a poor child is left on their own, right? The child, it's not the child's fault. Of course, we know this, but the child generates its own map from the best they can do at the time to deal with a really challenging situation. And that I need to keep people happy so they don't leave. And then they put the map on everything they're experiencing. So they create now public events, create internal pressure, right? And so we're going to stay with client A and we're going to talk about the breakthrough actually. And then we'll go back to client B. But essentially, this is what we call the shadow tree, right? It's built from the roots, it's conscious conceptualization, right? We've got the roots here. We've got the internal process, right? Or the unconscious map. We've got the trigger, the symptom. Now, these words of the shadow tree, the symptom, trigger, internal process, conscious conceptualization, these are the words of Kim Barter. He's a fantastic mentor of mine and really leads the leading edge of shadow work, in my opinion. I just want to give him a bit of credit. But let's go to the after, right? And so this is where we generate the light tree. And this is where we change the unconscious map. And so what did we do? So what we did is we allow the old map to break or to even just be given back. Okay. So that assumption, right, that map that I need to make people happy or they'll leave, when we just give that back and also give back the my fault, because that was just for subjective interpretation, what are we left with, right? And we don't know. This is where it's so fun and so wonderful because we just get to find out we're not putting anything in there, right? Because that actually dilutes the breakthrough here. We're just witnessing and waiting to see what emerges. So what emerged for this person? This wonderful person. We have this wholeness, we have this lightness, and this deep peace. And when it emerged, it was just, I feel this lightness. I feel whole. I feel this really deep peace. And when we're really going through the initial breakthrough, we're just going to stay with the real raw somatic sensation. We're not even worried about the internal map at this point. We're not even worried about the trigger or worried about the symptom. They're going to sort themselves out. We're going to play with them as this grows, right? If you can imagine, if we go to this tree, we're going to be at the roots, right? We're going to allow the roots to grow, and we're going to trust that that's going to make the the rest of the tree grow. That's going to make the leaves grow, it's going to make the branches grow, the trunk grow. Same here. We don't need to rush to the leaves. We want to let it grow in its own way, and we create a really robust, strong, lasting change that can really change much more than just one symptom, right? Look how big this tree is. You think that one leaf is all we're going to change here? You think that's all we're going to change? When we change the root, when we change the conscious conceptualization, we change the whole damn tree, right? You know, we make breakthroughs in every area of life, in every area of our consciousness. So we're changing the whole tree. Okay. So anyway, we nurture and we celebrate this conscious conceptualization, this deep peace, this lightness, this wholeness. We allow it to get really, really, really strong, really deep, and we allow it to gently grow. And then what happens is we gently explore what's the new unconscious map that's emerging, right? Now, I gave some cognitive perspectives here, but that's more to illustrate to you, and sometimes it emerges cognitively. In this case, it was just a somatic experience. If we look at it cognitive, it's like it's not my job to make people happy. I'm loved either way. Right? That's kind of a cognitive interpretation. But the reality is, when we're getting to this stage, it's often very somatic, right? It can still be very cognitive and symbolic. That's totally fine too. But the map now is just this lightness, wholeness, and deep peace. Often we go beyond the old map. Often we're not even interpreting it as it's not my job. It's just like I wouldn't even think of that to begin with. I'm not even bringing in a reality where it's my job or it's not my job. Right? It's not even a question that I would ask. So what does that lead to? Well, the trigger just stops existing. When this person now goes to events, it's not a trigger for pressure. It's just they get to experience that same lightness, wholeness, deep peace when they're at events too, right? And it's not even a big deal after this. It's just another experience. What tends to happen is the symptom and the trigger, they've sorted themselves out. That's great. They're not a problem anymore. But the richness from the conscious conceptualization here is so much more interesting. It's so much more powerful. It's so much more beautiful. That's where that's the really beauty of the breakthrough, right? And so we then grow this, right, just like a tree, and we just allow it to grow as big as it wants to get. And this can be in one session, but very often I'll work with people and we'll be growing it for a few weeks or even months because it will grow into so many areas of our life, this wholeness, lightness, deep peace. I've had people have breakthroughs in relationships that dramatically improve their business. Or in this case, around the business, right? Pressure and this sort of thing around events, generating beautiful new experiences in relationship with this deep peace, lightness, and wholeness. And we're able to be with their partner in a completely new way, right? Or even just how they live, how they are in the world. Right? There's so much richness that comes from this. And this is why we want to do it. Because the experience of life is just so different. Yet we're able to do it in a way that's able to remove the symptoms, right? Able to help our business, help what we're working on, but we're able to get a richer life through it as well. We're able to be in deep peace, lightness, and wholeness, just as our natural experience and create lasting change. So let's go on to the second example. And this is what we're talking about. Another aspect of shadow or internal maps can be split egos. And this is an example we have here. So the client came and they were having confusion. They were given a new offer, right? So they're already working on one, and someone came through and it was really good money, and they didn't know if they wanted to take it, right? They're very good at what they do, um, but they were kind of torn of what they want to do, if they want to take on more. But decided to explore it. And what was it doing? This opportunity was generating confusion because two parts of them, right? Two parts were in conflict. This is why we generate confusion. We have clarity when all of us, all parts of us, are on the same page. But at this stage, it was generating confusion. So the first part was more of a sales mindset. You know, more, next revenue cycle, like next milestone, right? What can I grow to this year? What can I grow to in the next 6 months, right? If anyone's in sales, this is often what they experience, where they always want to be growing, always want to be hitting the next target, okay? And this offer presented an opportunity for that. Now, second part was content and happy as we were. Life was going great, making great money. Money was not an issue, and life was really wonderful, right? Life was really beautiful. And so at this stage, you can see when we're at the internal process of these two parts, they're so different. How are we going to get to a harmony? How are they going to get on board? Because they're very different. One wants to more, and one is content as we are. They seem worlds apart. So we explore to conscious conceptualization. And the key word here, the absolute key, is intention. Let me make it a little small. Whoop, there we go. Intention. Positive intention. So here we have a lot of positive qualities, but what's the underlying positive intention? And this is what we got. So the first part is it wants meaning, which it got through growth, and fulfillment. Right? Meaning and fulfillment, what it got through growth. That's why I loved that mindset of more. And then the second part also was very fulfilled, but also wanted peace. And we can see both parts actually have fulfillment as a core intention here. You may have a little differentiation, but not massively. This part is not going to have a problem with meaning, and this part is not going to have a problem with peace. Right? They're now much more similar than they are different. And when we let the parts see this, right, they get to speak, they get to talk, they get to have their positive intention, and we get the other part to do the same. What happens is they start to see that they're very similar, right? Oh, we're actually on the same page. We're not too dissimilar. This is actually just relationship here, right? It's literally just relationship, right? And you can imagine in a relationship, when you're with your partner, right, with girlfriend or boyfriend, and you start to see that you're similar, you want the same thing, oh, it becomes easy to be on the same side. But even if you have some kind of a little bit of conflict on the more surface stuff, as long as the core is the same, this gets sorted out easy. It's not a problem. Right? I am messy today, aren't I? And so when we're doing this, and when these parts see that they're more similar, this is what we get. We get harmony between the two parts. We both want fulfillment. You know, we can get on board with both wanting peace and meaning too. We're very similar. And what tends to happen here is parts either come together, as parallel. So they're both going towards the same direction together, happy. Or they come together as one direction, one part. They've unified, right? Doesn't matter which one. Both are very good. Both lead to the same results. We just let what they choose. If they want the individuality and to be in parallel, amazing. If they want to be in unification, wonderful. We don't make it either way. We just see what happens. So when we're in this harmony at the core level, then very often breakthroughs start to happen at the more surface level, right? At the decision. And so in this case, there wasn't a conflict. They both wanted fulfillment, they both wanted meaning, they both wanted peace. And when it came to the actual initial problem, they decided that the fulfillment was at the core. And their growth at this moment wasn't in, if we go back here, it wasn't in sales mindset. The growth, the meaning and fulfillment which they wanted was actually in doing something new entirely, right? So this person starts to really generate deep clarity that they love the offer that they're already on, and they actually want to expand in something completely new for themselves, right? Something beyond that initial decision. It wasn't A or B, it was a completely new option. It was a C option. And that was perfect for them. And so that led to clarity, no confusion. And not only that, but just like before, when we're being with the root, right? The root here is harmony. What happens? Well, harmony then generates to more alignment, to less procrastination, less resistance. In this case, the offer was turned down, right? That was easy. There was clarity there. And this new energy emerged to just create something completely new, right? New energy emerged to really go in an entirely new, courageous direction that before seemed a little bit daunting, but now with all this energy, with all this power, seemed very, very real. Okay. So this is the power of shadow. There's a couple of examples of what we really want to do here. And if I move to, I think I have one more bit. Where did I put it? Here we go. Just the next steps that I think might resonate with you. So we've got to remember we want to be at the internal process, right? The unconscious map, not the symptom, not the symptom. Internal process, the map. Why? Because the map generates the symptoms, right? It's like if I'm eating horrible and I'm super tired, well, I change what I eat because then I'm going to generate less tiredness, I'm going to generate more energy. Okay, it's a super basic example, but that's kind of what we're speaking about here. And so find your own internal process, your own unconscious map. How are you generating the symptoms you're dealing with? And then play with just letting the mind see it. Often when we see the map, it actually breaks on its own. And if it doesn't, just seeing it can really give you a space to not be reactive and not create as many of the symptoms and not to be in so much suffering. But I'm also going to extend an invitation here, right? If you are resonating with this, if this is something that feels like it's your next step as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, to really master the internal world, then I would definitely invite you to get in contact. Either this will be on YouTube, just reach out in the YouTube comments or go to my Instagram and DM me there, and we can get into contact and we can talk about the next steps together. Okay, I'll see if I can help you. But for now, my friends, it's been a real pleasure. Have a wonderful day. Bye for now.